Mind Moto, got a question here. With speed acting as arguably the largest separating factor between amateur and professional riders, good timing for this question, could you therefore assume that it would benefit the amateur rider more to work and develop their technique over a professional rider, as the pro already has an ability more superior to an amateur? In other words, are pros less susceptible to the effects of poor technique based on their outright speed and ability, or is it just as vital for a pro to have good technique than it is an amateur? This is a great question. This is an excuse that I get constantly, is either the two things. One is the person excusing themselves because they say, oh, I'm just out there having fun with my buddies. So that's how they justify not learning and taking their riding kind of to the next level. Or you have the excuse of, oh, well, that person's so fast already, why would they need technique? Which is a weird one as well. Yet that's the same guy that they're pointing at, and he gets hurt every year, or he hasn't won a championship because he's fast, but he crashes too much. All of those things. It is equally important for both, for kind of the same reasons, but on varying levels, right? It's important because it'll keep you safe. That's important for everybody. The fast pros that don't have the best technique end up on the ground. They get hurt more, period. Less experienced riders that aren't pro, that don't focus on the technique, they get hurt more, period. The riding experience will also level up. So I would argue that's important for anybody as well, pro rider or somebody just doing it for fun. You want to level up the fun experience. When you ride the way that I teach, it gets more fun. It gets more fun. You create more flow and consistency, and it feels like you are at one with the bike instead of being a passenger and just along for the ride the whole time. To some people, maybe that adrenaline rush is fun. To me, it's not. To me, it's fun to be one with the bike and to feel like you're being creative. And it's more of like a creative act when you're riding, and you can put the front wheel here and jump off this. Especially on the Stark, it has so much torque and so much power that what I've realized is you can bunny hop the Stark. So shoot, yesterday I was doing this transfer at 508. I was jumping from a track in Massachusetts. I was jumping from one lane all the way to the other, and I wanted to go to the downside, but it was really steep. And I'm like, you know what, at the end of the day, I don't really feel like endoing myself. So what I started doing for fun is I would land short on purpose, but then bunny hop once I landed and then catch the downside off the bunny hop. Or I can land in braking bumps, and how you kind of jump through on a 250 or a 450. You can do that, but I'm talking way more fun on the Stark. You can like really launch through. So it becomes more creative. You can just play around with things and experiment, and it levels up the riding experience. And then the third thing that technique does is it basically raises the ceiling infinitely on what you can create for speed. And it makes it so that you don't really have to put a focus on speed. It just sort of, as the ceiling rises, so look at it this way. As you improve technique, your speed ceiling is going to do this. So your perceived effort and your comfort with speed is going to rise slowly. As that happens, naturally your 40, 50, 60% of perceived effort is going to slowly rise along with that. And it will happen basically subconsciously. You won't have to put much conscious effort into trying to force speed, because forcing speed usually just causes frustration and danger, to be quite honest. Hopefully that makes sense. Also, I answered that way better this time than I did the first attempt of this podcast. Oh, he said the question was inspired after watching some of the pros at Southwick this weekend. Obviously going way faster than I could ever imagine, but I saw lots of elbows dropped, toes pointed out, and some questionable attack positions at play, and wanted to pose the question. Yeah, great question. And lots to be learned from watching the pros, good or bad. They don't do it all right. And even the guys that do it mostly right still make mistakes, and you can learn from it. Cam Baker. In basketball, sometimes a kid has a really ugly shot and it goes in, but there's a cap to how good of a shooter he can be. Is this the same in Moto? Some argue if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Cam Baker, great question. And what I was just talking about literally answered that exact question. So rewind it a little bit, listen to that answer, and it answers your question to a T. It does matter. It will create consistency and safety and level up the fun experience. It is so, so important for any level. If you guys enjoyed this podcast clip and you want to listen to full episodes, you can do so on Spotify and Apple Music. If you want to send in your own video submission, you can join us in the Moto Academy family inside of the Moto Academy app by just going to themotoacademy.com. That's also where you can sign up for a class. Okay, guys, see you next episode.